Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. So, the GameStar Magazine in Germany had a preview of 3.0, as well as an interview with Chris Roberts and some of the members of the CIG team. In this video, I want to go over what they saw in the 3.0 demo and what else was said. Starting with the 3.0 demo that they got to see and have a little go of. They said that it was played on an i7 5930K with a GTX 980 and 32 gigs of RAM, and they were getting around 30 frames. But don't forget, they are currently working on more optimization. So the demo, they say, started at Grim Hex. The player wakes up and uses the Mobiglass to dress himself, then they walk outside to the landing pads where a Gladius is waiting. This is when they get introduced to the use system and the item 2.0, where they can control many things in more detail, like entering your ship, the HUDs within your ship as well. With item 2.0, CIG can make every object in the world interactive by giving it properties. And with the new star map via your Mobiglass, they can now fly to points of interest instead of the old marker on your HUD, which is what we currently use. So via the star map, they jump to the edge of the atmosphere of Delamar and then are flying down manually. During the atmospheric entry, they say that flames start appearing around the hull, and this will depend on your speed and the size of your ship. A new flight control system shows the way to the landing pad on a highly detailed Levski landing zone, where there are also now garages where you can get ground vehicles, as we've seen. It is planned that the ship will despawn after landing and some time has passed to make space for other players, of course, but normally you would now go to the kiosk and let your ship repair or refuel, because this will take some time. Now, they say that the details in Levski are really impressive. As they approach Miles, Miles Eckhart, they notice that his behaviour changes. Miles looks up from his Mobiglass, checks them with a short look up and down, and then looks back down to his Mobiglass again. And they say it all seems very realistic. And in comparison to last year's Gamescom demo, they have made a huge jump in the detail of movements. Everything seems very natural, and the facial expressions are incredible. And with the combination of the voice, they say it's nearly real. They are not done with NPCs just yet. All the time, they're having new features coming in and eliminating bugs. They want the NPCs in 3.0 to be as perfect as they can. And the quest givers and subsumption in 3.0 are test objects, because obviously in the future, every NPC will be using this technology, whether it's Star Citizen or Squadron 42. They say that subsumption is more of a system than a script. So in 3.0, there will be between 7 and 14 missions. This depends on how many problems that they face until 3.0 gets released. So they may pull some missions, but, if they're having trouble with them, but then they'll release them via little updates. Now, a little spoiler regarding the mission from Miles. Basically, one of his missions is to find a missing person, and the last known place is Yellis. So there's a signal coming from a possible crash site, and the job is quite obvious. You fly to the position and just find out what's happened. They go back to the landing pad and fly out of the atmosphere, where they choose a new signal as the destination and start quantum travelling. Everything they do is seamless. There is nowhere a loading screen, and then they fly down to a caterpillar wreck, and these wrecks are partially procedural, partially generated and handcrafted, as we've seen in the latest ATV. Some of them will be taken over by NPCs, not in 3.0 though, but some of them will fight you eventually, and some of them will be friendly and just want to trade. But they leave the Gladius and go on foot to explore the caterpillar's interior. In one room they find the corpse of the missing person. Sadly, they said that the interaction system of the demo failed, but then two enemies appear and are coming in from behind and start firing at you, so they kill the enemies using the new anti-vehicle weapon, which I assume will be the Scourge railgun, which has a lot of power and a lot of help. And that was pretty much the demo that they got shown. Now, the people from GameStar were also allowed to play 3.0 for themselves. They used the new Nox bike, but the game crashed after restarting. They tried it again, and everything worked fine as they cruised around. They said the controls are not perfect, at least for the gamepad, but driving around one moon in a Dragonfly, they said, will cost you about 3 hours. Now, the dimension of the solar system becomes very clear when you look at it in the solar system editor, or SOLED. Seeing the proportions from 3.0 to the current build is stunning. They say that becomes clear when they see the Stanton system in SOLED and just keep scrolling out and out and out. And they say the dimensions alone are just fascinating. Even people, they said, who closely follow the development like ourselves, might not imagine how big the universe is. 3.0 will be an interesting cross-play system. They say 2 players will get different quests and sometimes the same job, maybe even with different goals, and that might bring players or 2 players to the same location where both of them don't know that what the other player wants. And they said it will be quite interesting to see how people react But this might also be a problem because the reputation system is coming in 3.1. So without that reputation system 3.0, you'll have to be on your guard a bit. Because I expect a lot of people will just fire on sight. A lot of people won't, as I've mentioned in the latest video. They did say that with the console command, they teleported to an outpost, which might be part of a mission in 3.0. Currently, everything in the outposts are not usable, but this will change because the item 2.0 will make it possible. They did say that they don't know if this is already in 3.0, so again, we'll have to, fingers crossed. Many apps and improvements on systems are missing in the demo, otherwise, we would obviously have 3.0 right now. Now, they're very optimistic with planets and outposts, but the next challenge is to make it a living environment. They work piece by piece and systems are coming together which will help them to make the next step. Most of the time, it just takes longer than Chris Roberts and the developers wanted, but they need this time to have a foundation to build upon. So some other points they picked up on while talking to the developers. Every goal is with the current technology achievable, but not every goal or idea will be implemented in the way that it is planned because they realise that it's either not fun or a good way to do this. They have no problem going back and starting new to make better implementations, but don't worry, they won't just suddenly scrap what they already have and go straight back to the start. They'll just rebuild things better. There's a huge amount of time was invested in building up the team and the foundation, again making all the changes to the engine that is no longer the current the CryEngine anymore. If you compare the engines one for one, you will have about 50% CryEngine code and 50% the new engine code, but if you look at the actual code used by Star Citizen, you have around 10% CryEngine and then 90% the new engine. Two things resulted in a huge refactor: the sheer size of the universe and the interaction possibilities. To make a whole solar system with huge planets possible, you need to make it possible so the engine can handle these coordinates. Such precision in such a huge world is only possible with this 64-bit. This change took them about a year. There was a huge amount of interaction possibilities with NPCs and objects, which required the rewrite of the job management system so that the code is not blocking the main thread. The logic now makes full use of all cores because they need many refreshes for the many entities that will be in the game. A weakness of the CryEngine was that not everything can be an entity. They changed that and now every entity can have different components. So a ship can have a flight control system as a component, then it can have a life support component in forms of different rooms with oxygen. There was no component system in CryEngine. This is also called the Item 2.0 system, which lets the team develop and test each component independently. They say that this is a very modern principle in programming that is expandable friendly, performance friendly, and just makes it easier to synchronize the whole world over the network. The first plan was to make Star Citizen like in other MMOs with capsuled instances with not many players. So currently there is 24 players on one server, and this probably won't change for 3.0. But the rework of the engine also affects the network. There will be many servers that can communicate between each other, and this will enable instances with thousands of players. A physical server contains currently about 32 cores that make 8 virtual machines possible for dealing with data. This is because currently the CryEngine can't do more than 4 cores. When they get 24 players with 4 cores, the scaling with the CPU is relatively linear with the player count, and they'll can get far more than 100 players on one server. And when they have a server network and the seamless transitions between them, every player practically plays in the same instance of the world. Because this technology still needs some time, it is important to continue the rework of the CryEngine to allow for much more, like the huge amount of NPCs. Obviously, the plan is to have 90% of the population NPCs, 10% of them players. So they said it should run on modern hardware, but it should scale very good with much better hardware. They really want to use all of your machine's power. Plus, they want to be aware of performance. They don't want to have the best hardware in all their PCs. They have a variety of components in the developers' PCs so that they notice problems faster. Now, they are optimizing for the new Ryzen processors, which are scheduled to be worked on. They don't want to have a reputation like Crysis as a sort of running gag of can it run Crysis. The minimum specs for the PC, as we know, a 4-core CPU, a 2GB GPU, 8GB of RAM, and it's recommended on an SSD. Graphic settings, they say, will give you many controls over the performance demand. Currently, there is only one real quality setting for the overall quality. There probably won't be as many as 20 options for graphic settings because it would need too much testing. But there will be enough options to control the performance. They can develop for future hardware and people can turn back settings themselves. And current high-end hardware will be in 2 years only about upper middle class hardware, and Star Citizen will hopefully be played for many years. Chris Roberts says that he's very happy that so many people understand that they are taking the time to do this right. Now, in terms of DirectX and Vulkan, the game makes use of low-level interface like DirectX 11, but because DirectX 12 is Windows 10 only, they will switch to Vulkan for newer API features. This will be done in time for the commercial release. They may even plan to just completely drop DirectX 11 support. Vulkan will make a way better core utilization possible, which leads to more draw calls. CryEngine already plan in the near future to support Vulkan 5.4, but CIG can't make these updates because the code is too different. They will have a similar plan like Crytek, but they first have to complete the underlying rewrite of many of the components to work from this. The current problems are more, they say, in game code than the graphics API. So in terms of procedural generation, someday Star Citizen will contain over 100 star systems with over 300 planets and moons. Every planet and moon should be able to be walked on, obviously excluding those with dangerous atmospheres. And for release, Chris Roberts is aiming for 5 to 10 star systems. And finally, the object container system. They spoke a little bit about this. When traveling through the game world, your PC has to have the correct data ready to be displayed. So having a whole solar system with real planets is a technical challenge, obviously. They have to stream the data very efficiently, and to solve this problem, CIG developed the object container streaming. Now, an object container contains all the data necessary for displaying this container. This could be a whole planet, a space station, or just a room within a space station. Star Citizen will now identify which objects may need to be loaded first. The hierarchy ensures that the most important data is first available. To support the technique hardware-wise, it is recommended to have an SSD and a huge amount of RAM, or as much as possible. Currently, there are 4 to 5 special areas on planets and moons. As the object container streaming is implemented more, there will be much more. And according to Chris Roberts, the implementation won't be done until the end of 2017. Anyway, I've included a few pictures. You can see the pictures are the ones with the little captions written in German. I can't translate them, I'm afraid. But this was basically the overview of the GameStar interview and demo of 3.0. Let me know what your thoughts are. There's some good information there. A lot of it we already heard, and I've missed out a bit of stuff because the information was old information. I have provided the link to the Reddit post. Thank you to the chap who put it up there. Really appreciate that. So go and take a look for yourself. Thank you for watching. Don't forget we're giving away a Star Citizen starter package, courtesy of my patrons. So be sure to comment on any video throughout July and hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitch, Twitter and Instagram, and I shall see you next time.